You're now listening to the 11:30 podcast. Enjoy the show.
Nasty, hateful, insane nation that ever existed.
Oh, yo, what he do, everybody? It's your man Dre, aka Dre on Wheels. Y'all already know what it is, man. Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the 11:30 podcast. What's good, everybody doing out there, man? Appreciate everyone tuning back in to another episode here on the 11:30 podcast YouTube channel. If you're new to the YouTube channel and if you haven't done so already, definitely do me a big, huge favor. Smash that subscribe button down below, like it, leave a comment, and don't forget to follow the 11:30 podcast on all social media platforms. But you guys, like I said, man, it's time for the show. We're going to get into it. Got a cool guest that's going to be joining me on this week's episode. Keana Mitchell. Yes, you guys. She's a singer, songwriter, entrepreneur. She's a relationship coach. She's going to be joining me here on this week's episode of the podcast show. Chopping it up with her. We ain't going to waste no more time. Actually, she's standing by. Bring on my lovely guest, Keana Mitchell. How's it going? How's it going?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. How's everything? How's life treating you?
Life is treating me good. This is a good week so far. My kids have not been sick. No doctor's appointment. So yeah, I'm good.
Okay, and look at that's a good reason to feel good when your kid's not sick and they doing good. My little man is actually in the room right now asleep, so I was like, let me do this podcast real fast. Mama went to the doctor, so I just said, okay, all right, let's do this. So I know what you're saying. Appreciate you once again coming through here on the podcast. I love it. But for my listeners and viewers, it's your first time here on the show. Tell everyone about yourself. Tell everyone about Keana Mitchell.
All right. Well, I am a singer, songwriter, relationship coach. I do have a degree in criminal justice. I have a master's in counseling psychology with a concentration in rehabilitation counseling. And so I have worked for the state as a rehabilitation counselor, which was helping people with disabilities get employment or go to school. I have also worked as a mental health counselor in the school system. Currently, I do presentations at schools to help kids know about child abuse, sexual abuse, and what to do if they're ever in that situation, in addition to relationship coaching and everything else that I do.
Okay, cool. You said one thing that was very interesting because, I have a disability too, and you talk about helping people who have disabilities find, employment and find jobs, correct?
Mm-hmm. Correct,
okay.
Yes.
Yeah, talk about that because I think, man, for a long time, I think I was talking about that on a recent episode too. It's just, I was just going after sort of my gift. After a while, I was just like, man, no job is coming through. You apply for job application after job application. It was like, man, they don't want to hire a brother in a wheelchair. Like, what's up? So, just started doing my own thing though. But yeah, talk about helping, the disabled and find employment and stuff.
Okay, so as a rehabilitation counselor, part of my job was to work with individuals who had disabilities. What I would do like assessments to find out what type of jobs they were able to do, pretty much find out the whole scope of their disability, just so that we would know what jobs would be good based on what they liked, based on what education they had, based on the disability that they had, to make sure we can get those accommodations, to make sure we can get a job coach to help out with finding employment. And we would let the employers know up front, okay, this person has a disability, this is what they're going to need. We would provide it, because I was a rehabilitation counselor, but every state have what they call vocational rehab centers, right? And so then they have people who are rehabilitation counselors who work there. So the state will provide sometimes the equipment for your vehicle if you need it. The state will provide job coaching just so that the person can get employed, and it will be less of an obstacle to the employer to hire the person. And they also had different types of tax incentives that they had, and we would also let them know about those so that we would kind of help break down all of the barriers that were in place so that that person could become employed.
Okay. I think that's awesome. Where you from?
Well, originally I was born in New Jersey. I live in Alabama, but I'm not claiming it. So I was born in New Jersey. That's where I'm from. But I
Okay.
live in Alabama.
So New Jersey all the way. You say
all
I'm
the
not.
way.
I'm not. I'm not claiming Alabama. I dig it. I dig it. Because that was one thing, because I had my learnings also, and it was just now I'm in the process of trying to get it, get things situated with it. But
Mhm.
when I did have my learnings, it was a difficult process of trying to find equipment and stuff where it was like once I got my learnings, it was like you need a certain amount of hours with an adult in a vehicle, but it was
Mhm.
like, well, how do I get an accessible vehicle? How do I get the accessible
Yeah.
things that I need to actually try to drive? Because I actually do, I mean,
Mhm.
public transportation is one thing, but man, when it get, out of hand, it's just like, you want your own transportation. So
That
I
is
think
true.
that's awesome.
Yeah, especially if you live in an area where there's not a lot of public transportation. Because I know where I live, there isn't a lot of public transportation. So if you don't have a car, you'll have to pay a whole bunch for Uber. But then if you have a disability or you have a wheelchair, even Uber would be difficult because you would have to have a car to get in that would be accessible to you and the wheelchair. And so that is why vocational rehab works so hard to sometimes help get the cars fixed. They'll see what kind of car the person have, and then they'll just get them fixed for them so that they can drive and so that they will be able to get employment. Because the whole goal is for individuals to have gainful employment. And we understand that there are going to be some barriers. So we try to help get some of those barriers removed. And the good thing about it is free is every state has vocational rehab centers around. They're called vocational rehab, and each state has them. And then once you apply, if you have a disability, you're automatically accepted. Then they can just see what they can do to help get you situated with either employment or going to school or getting your vehicle adapted so that you can have the opportunity to have gainful employment, to have an opportunity to work.
Okay, okay. I dig that. I dig that. I definitely do. We gonna get into some other stuff here on the podcast. Kiana, you enjoy helping a women who are struggling in their marriage to work on their self esteem, their belief system, and stuff like that. You also, the relationship coach. Can you talk about that as well?
Yes, I can. So I've been married for almost 18 years. And you know how when you first get married, everyone thinks, oh, we live happily ever after. It's like darn you
Yeah.
fairy tales. Like, that's not how that works. So you go into it with that mindset and then you realize, oh, so it's not happily ever after. There's work I have to put in. There are some things I need to know about myself, something I need to learn about my spouse. And it can be difficult. That's why the divorce rate is so high, because it's not because people want to get divorced, it's because we don't know what to do. We have not been properly trained on how to be in a good relationship, let alone a marriage, because a lot of us haven't even seen good relationships and marriages modeled for us, right? So, because of that, it's kind of hard to just be thrown into something and be expected to succeed when you don't have the proper examples or education as to what you're supposed to be doing. So, through a lot of trial and error, and I'm still learning now. So, please don't think I'm perfect, because even though I know all the knowledge, sometimes knowledge and emotions are two different things. So, you may know I should not be doing this, but then your emotions like, ah. So, it's one of those things where we're all learning, but I wanted to help women not have to learn the hard way. You know, yeah, they're going to have some obstacles, they're going to make some mistakes, but they can learn from me and learn from my experience and kind of figure it out before they get to that point. I wanted to help women. So that is how I started with relationship coaching. And what I do is I help women who feel like they are just at their wits end with their marriage. And I do understand that sometimes when you are in a difficult situation in your marriage or things have been rough for a long time, it can work on your self esteem. It could work on how you view yourself and what you think. And if you are not in the proper place emotionally or mentally, then it's more difficult for you to try to work on or even fix the marriage because you're not where you need to be. So, kind of what I help people understand is this: let's just accept we can't change our spouse, okay? They are who they are. They're going to be who they are. They're going to do what they're going to do until they realize they need to change. The only person we can change and who we're responsible for is ourselves. So we change how we react. If we change not arguing about certain things or not doing certain things and understand why we're reacting a certain way, then by default, your marriage would change because 50% of the problem will go away. And that 50% of the problem sometimes is us. And even I always tell people, even if you don't initiate the argument, the fact that you're contributing to the argument doesn't help either. So all of these things we need to think about. And so what I do is I help women see that, okay, we can't change him, but we can definitely change ourselves. And we change ourselves not because we're trying to make our marriage better or improve anything. We're changing ourselves because we want to be better. We want to be better people. Because when you are a better version of yourself, you're better for your kids, your marriage. You do self-care, you take care of yourself. And a lot of it, I think, has to do with us not taking care of ourselves because we're taught you get married, husband, kids, career. You don't take care of yourself. So when you take care of yourself, when you are in a good place mentally and emotionally, then it's easier to work on your marriage and have what you need to do that because you are okay with you.
Hmm. Hey, I definitely like that. And why is it that couples sometimes maybe get in these relationships and just want to change the other person instead of just growing with this individual and knowing them, because I
Mhm.
think I think sometimes, with these divorce rates is so high, I don't think we get the time and take the time to really understand and get to know the individual, the actual person.
I
We are
agree.
so caught up maybe on the looks and the desires and getting in the bed with them and oh, what our kids gonna look like, and so much stuff that we don't take the time out to really actually get to know this person, actually sit in a room with them for 30, 40 minutes to an hour or so, just chat with them,
Mhm.
just sit in there, just see if you really like this person, and I think that's where I think a lot of things kind of like start at, that's be the unseen sort of red flags in my opinion though. But yeah, why couples always try to change the other one instead of just figuring out the person.
No, I agree with you. And I think a lot of it, believe it or not, has to deal with the fact that in the country that we live in, a lot of people are religious. A lot of people are Christians. And what is the thing they always tell you? Don't have sex until you're married. So I think when you put that in people's mind, they're not looking at trying to get to know anyone. They're just like, I need to get married because I want to have sex. So their mind is totally off. They're not thinking about, oh, I need to get to know this person because I'm going to be with this person forever. Or, this is my goal to be with someone forever. And I just think that our minds are totally in a different direction. And then a lot of times I think that because of the examples of previous relationships, whether they've been our own or our parents, we don't know what to look for. We don't know what a good relationship is like. So if you grow up in a household where fighting was constant, if you're fighting with somebody, it doesn't seem like a big deal because that's all you know. That's normal. So I think we have to look at the things that we consider normal and recognize, no, this is not normal. This is not how relationships should be. And then I think once we understand what a real relationship should look like and be like, then it's easier for us to kind of have some type of roadmap to follow.
Okay, okay. And for your opinion, or just conversation sake, what is a real relationship looks like to Keana Mitchell? Because you got a lot of people, maybe base their relationship off of social media. Oh, you're not doing this for me, or you're not buying me enough of this, or we're not going on enough dates, or you don't tell me I'm pretty, or you don't slap me on the butt too much, or whatever the case may be. Just but yeah, what is a real relationship?
To me, a real relationship is just about acceptance and forgiveness. And the reason I just say acceptance and forgiveness because you have to accept that person. That person's flawed. They're not perfect. They're going to mess up, make mistakes. They're going to hurt you. And it may not even be intentional. It's just the way that they are. Like some people might have a rough way of saying things, but someone else might be more sensitive. It's just that because we are two different people from two different environments, two different personalities, we're going to hurt each other and we're going to do all of these things. But we have to accept first, they're not perfect. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to mess up. And then be willing to forgive them like you want someone to forgive you. Because when I say forgive your spouse, I know some people would be like, well, how can I forgive them because they're doing this and they're doing that? But we have to look at it because we mess up too. We do some of the same things. I know some of the things that annoy me about my husband are some of the same things I find myself doing. But it seems cool when I do it, but when he does it, you're like, oh, what a jerk. So it's about forgiveness. Like, okay, we both messed up. I got to forgive him. I want him to forgive me. I want him to give me grace and show me mercy. So I need to do the same to him. And I just think that when we understand we are human, lower those extreme high impossible expectations and just accept people for who they are, I think things would be a lot better. You can get so much more connection and understand the person better because you know each other and you're accepting and you guys know each other on a personal level.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You said one thing else too, forgiveness though, and I hear that a lot, especially in marriages though. There's a whole lot of forgiveness that
Yeah.
goes in, with a marriage. Sometimes, it could be rocky days. You may say something you don't mean, or whatever, whatever like that. So you gotta forgive that person and move on. That's the person that you said you wanted to spend the rest of your life with. So a whole lot of forgiveness is definitely needed though. As far as go ahead.
I also wanted to just throw in, we also need to forgive ourselves because sometimes in marriages, we do things that can be very hurtful and can damage your marriage. But you have to forgive yourself because if you don't forgive yourself, then it's going to be harder to improve, work on the marriage, and move forward. So you need to forgive them and you have to forgive yourself for things that you do wrong when you do things wrong and own it.
Okay. I agree. I definitely agree. Did you always, wanted to be a relationship coach growing up, or just it just sort of fell into your lap?
Funny story. I think it actually just fell into my lap. To be honest, I've always wanted to be a singer when I was a kid. Anyone say,
Okay.
Keana, what you want to do when you get older? I'm like, I'm going to be a singer. Even when I went to college, I just picked something because my mom was like, okay, so here's the deal. You're going to have to go to college because if not, you're going to have to get a job and pay rent. If you go to college, you can stay for free. So, my choice was college because I realized, kind of don't want to work right now. So I went to college. I decided to be a speech pathologist. After a couple years, realized I didn't like it. So then I just switched to criminal justice. And I switched to criminal justice because my thinking was, I'm going to be a singer. I really don't need an education. I'm just going to do this because they take all my credits. So I did it. And I had no idea that later on in life, I would get a master's in counseling. And that even though I'm not quote unquote a singer in my podcast, what I do is I write songs. I still write songs. Singing is my love. I love music. I love singing. And I'm supposed to go to the studio this Thursday to work on music. So I haven't forgotten about the singing. So I do consider myself to be a singer-songwriter, and I do work on music all the time. But what I also do is I write songs for my podcast. And the songs in the podcast, it's like I realize with me, music has been tremendous in helping me remember things, right? So even in college, in high school, or anytime I need to remember something, I make a little song about it. And then I send it to myself while taking the test and I pass. So that's just how I remember. So what I do during the podcast, I talk about relationship issues. I talk about problems that people have. And then sometimes I'll write a song and have the song play, because if you don't remember all the things I said, if you just remember a chorus or you just remember a verse, that can be helpful to help you make a better decision the next time you get into an argument, or the next time when you want revenge on your spouse and you realize, oh, that's not the best thing to do, So I do write songs and I incorporate it in my podcast so that you will have something musical to kind of help you remember what we talked about.
Okay, I dig that. I definitely checked out some of those musical podcasts, which I really enjoyed those. So you've been doing music since you was a young one, a young one.
Yeah, I was the kid who my mom would get so mad at me every summer, and my sisters would get mad at me too, because at first we started off with a singing group that we used to sing in church, and we used to call ourselves Emerging, and I would make them practice every single day, especially during the summer, for like hours, and they used to get so mad. Gianna, can we go? Nope, you didn't get the harmony right. Go try it again. So they would be practicing, and then eventually everybody quit. My sisters quit on me. They're like, how about you just do this by yourself? So once I started to do it by myself, I would just practice for like 8 hours sometimes. Just go in my bathroom, just practice singing. The only problem is we had one bathroom when I was a kid, so my mom would get annoyed. And I remember one day, she said, Donna, this is not normal. Get out the bathroom. No kids should practice for 8 hours straight. She's like, you can practice for 2 hours maybe, but after that, you've got to stop singing. So I was telling her, I was like, you ruined my dream. Like, how are you going to make me stop practicing? But I've always been like that. And even now, my kids are like, Mom, you just sing too much. I was like, okay. So when I start paying your college tuition on my songs, like, I don't want to hear any comments,
Yeah, I don't want to hear none of that. When this music start getting you all the good stuff, then you ain't going to be talking about, Mommy, you sing too much. You like, Mommy love to sing. I dig it. Who's been your biggest, music inspiration, sort of, to keep you into the music game?
When I was younger, my favorite people was BB and CC Winans. See, I grew up in like a Christian home, so I
Okay.
couldn't really listen to anything besides. My mom was really strict. Like anything with drums, we were not doing. She wouldn't. She would listen to quartets or James Cleveland. And he just talked a lot, so I hated it. I just couldn't stand it. So when I finally got old enough, I wrote a little essay for her. And I was like, well, mom, you're complaining about the drums not being Christian and all this stuff. But then in my essay, I pointed out to her that the songs she even listened to, the quartets, was more of a blues kind of style. And I said, that's not Christian either. So either I should listen to my music, and all I wanted to do was listen to Christian music just with beat, you know? I was just
Mm.
like, either I could listen to my music, or you shouldn't even listen to the music you listen to. And then she realized how ridiculous that was. So then she gave in. So then I was able to start listening to like BB and CC Winans, and then any other Christian group like Commission or gospel group. But they had to have beat to it. Like it had to be good. I didn't like anything that was not good. But it's funny because even though that was my inspiration, I actually write love songs because that is me. It's easier for me to sit down and write a love song than it is for me to try to write a gospel song. It's like when I do write gospel songs, most of them are like things talking about, questioning religion or like what's the purpose of it? God loves you anyway. It's mostly that kind of songs, not the praise and worship songs. It's more like the thinking kind of songs. And so I do write some Christian songs every now and then, but I mostly write love songs. And then even with that, though, I don't think it's a big deal because I do feel that even with love songs, we need things out there that helps us to remember why we got married, what we need to do to keep that relationship going. And even though I like a lot of the music out there today, I have nothing negative to say about it, but I don't find that it kind of brings you to that thinking moment for me. So that's what I try to do. And I guess because maybe I'm a counselor as well, I always want people to think about things, and I want something I'll be like, oh yeah, well maybe I can try this with my spouse, or oh, this is why I'm feeling this way. So yeah, I do write a lot of love songs, but the BB and CC Winans, I have to say, would be like my influence. Even now, I love, love, love them.
Okay, okay, that's a great influence and someone to really look up to and look out there, going into the music. So that's awesome. That is really really awesome. One thing you said that we're gonna move on to you just keep it moving on and stuff things about our relationship, keeping up with our relationship and moving on. And one recent episode on your podcast that you chat about was the childhood trauma, how it
Yeah.
affect your relationships and marriages growing up and stuff like that. And I think a lot of us don't take notice of that and how our childhood or someone's childhood trauma could definitely affect how they treat um, their marriages or treat people in society now. And somehow that's could be reason why some divorce rates could be low. It's just that you grew up, with some not great surroundings, and then you got into marriage, and you kind of like pushed that onto there, and it wasn't, great, and you kind of like didn't deal with your mental health issues and trauma and stuff.
Hmm. I agree. And I know that even with small things, childhood trauma is a big thing. Like, I know when I was a kid, my dad left when I was like 10 years old. And so as I got older, it just made me realize, okay, so you really can't trust guys. You need to have everything in place because if they decide to leave, you won't need them. And so I kind of had that mentality. And even when I was dating, I'd always have plan A, plan B, plan C, because I'm just like, I'm going to have options. No one's going to like, just walk out and leave me without an option. So that affected me with dating. Even when I got married, it affected me because I had a hard time trusting that my husband was actually going to stay, So I would, in my mind, think about, okay, so I need to have this together. I need to have that together because if this such and such happens, then I don't have to worry about it. So it does affect how you think and how you relate in your relationship. Because when you're thinking that somebody's going to leave you all the time and you're mentally planning for what you would do if they did, you're not giving them a chance. Like you're not trusting them. You're not giving your chance to become too attached to them or anything because you're thinking they're going to leave. And okay, well, if they leave, I don't want to be too attached. So you're kind of undermining your whole relationship. So I had to figure that out. And so that's just my personal story. But I'm sure other people have stories of things that they've done in their relationships based on the fact that they didn't have a mom or their mom left or she wasn't there. And I just think that it affects kids, especially when it is like a father or a mother when it comes to boys, how we relate to those parents of the opposite sex greatly determines how we relate to our marriages and how our relationships go, because these are the people who are supposed to model what we should be looking for. And if you don't have them or they're not a good role model, then it's very difficult to know what to look for when you're actually looking for that person. And unfortunately, all of us have this instinct to want to find someone like our mom or find someone like our dad. Even if you don't know your dad or your mom, or even if you hate them, you're going to find somebody with those same characteristics and pick someone who reminds you of your mom or remind you of your dad. So if you're aware of this and you know that your dad maybe was an alcoholic, when you see someone that's alcoholic, you may feel some attraction. You're like, nope, I understand what's going on here. This is not me liking them. I'm looking for someone to fill the void of my dad. So it's like even small things like that can help you with red flags. It can also help you when you do have a good, healthy relationship to know what is going on and what you need to do to maintain and sustain that relationship.
I'm on mute. Okay.
Okay.
I agree on everything you just said. I forgot the first question that I was going to ask you, but why is that we just, I mean, my mom is a wonderful person. I just remember that. I just remember the question first. I'm gonna get back to that.
Okay.
You said you kind of like thought every guy was going to leave you because your dad walked out on you when you
Right.
were young. And how did you deal with that in relationships that and future relationships came up because you just thought that every guy was just going to leave you, and once you realized that that was just what your dad did, and not maybe
Yeah.
other guys who was just trying to
Mhm.
talk to
Well, to be honest, I didn't even realize what was going on until one day, one of my friends, she said, Kiana, why do you do that? I was like, why do I do what? She's like, why do you talk to so many guys at one time? I was like, cuz, it's just what I do. I'm not committed to anybody. They know. So with no commitment. I'm
you.
not cheating or anything. She's like,
Yeah.
no. But like, why do you do that? Why do you feel like you can't just spend time and invest time with one person instead of talking to multiple people? And it wasn't until she asked me that question that I thought about it. I was like, good question. I honestly don't know. So then I did some reflection. And after I thought about it and did some reflection, I figured out that was the reason why I wanted to have plans. I wanted to be the person who was in charge to determine whether I broke up first or, I was in charge. So I would never feel like I was out of control or anything. And I figured it out. So once I figured it out, then I was able to focus on one relationship at a time. And yeah, sometimes they didn't work out, but it was with the understanding that, okay, so this may not work out, but guys can be trusted. All guys are not jerks. All guys are not going to leave you. So it was like a learning process. And so once my friend pointed it out, I figured out what was going on. And then I started to kind of just work on things. And this is before I even decided I wanted to do counseling or anything. I've always been a person where I'm a self-improvement person. So if I see something, I'm like, oh, I need to work on this, then I will get the books. I'll do the research. I'll work on it. And so that's kind of what I did. And once I began to work on it, and realized people could be trusted, then I was able to finally find someone who I ended up marrying. But I think it was because my friend asked me the question, why do you feel a need to talk to more guys at one time and not be committed to one person?
Okay, okay, that's a very interesting and cool answer though. But the second part that I was going to get to is like I was just saying, I love my mom. Mom is a wonderful person. My actual dad, I didn't, he wasn't in my life. I had my stepfather and other
Mm-hmm.
father figures though, but I never was, had the idea or had the mentality of getting into a relationship, maybe wanting the woman who was like my mom or anything like that. Why is it like that? Because a lot of some women and some men also maybe get in relationships and it's like, I want a man who was like my dad, and I get those characteristics where it's like he's protecting, he's providing and stuff like that.
Right.
But if it's not so great when you want someone who's better and try to do something different and try to break the generational cycle.
Yeah, and that's a good point. But I think a lot of it has to deal with the fact that we don't understand what's going on. So we'll see someone and we're attracted to them, and it's because it's familiar. This is what we're used to. So we may not want that person, but this is what we grew up with. This is what's familiar to us. This is what we know. And because of that, we'll settle for something that may not be best for us just because it's familiar, it's what we know, and we don't know anything else. We don't know this is not normal. Because a lot of times you've grown up in these type of households and you've seen it from the time you were a baby all the way up to a teenager. This is just normal for you. You don't know that this is not how it's supposed to be.
Hmm. Okay, so familiarity is
Yeah,
just basically going off of basically what we are just used to. And
exactly.
so what's the best way to break the generational cycle in a way of just basically not just going off of what our parents did or what our great parents did and just trying something new. It don't mean that what they did didn't work. May didn't though, but just going out there or creating a new path and a new journey for yourself and your future.
I think the best thing to do is first sit down and recognize what the problem is. Because if we don't realize there's a problem, we can't fix it. So if you realize you're attracted to a certain type of guy or a certain type of girl and they're always doing the same thing and you always end up with a broken heart, then you have to see, okay, why am I attracted to this person? What about them is something that I like. And so once you write things down, you can start to see different patterns, you can start to see different cycles. And once you see these patterns, then you can ask yourself, okay, why is this personality type attracted to me? Why do I like this personality type? And then begin to think about your childhood, people you knew, people that make you feel comfortable, things you're familiar with. And once you start thinking about those things, then you can write down, oh, well, my dad did this. My mom used to scream whenever this happened. Or I felt loved when my dad did this. And then once you begin to understand why you're attracted to that type of person, and then you begin to see the dysfunction in it, then I would say the best thing to do after that is to get a coach, go talk to a counselor. And the reason I say this is because a lot of times it's easier for us to identify things and come up with plan of actions and understand how to work on something when you have a counselor or a coach. It's easier to navigate through some of these emotions better when you're working with someone who's been trained to do this. And even if you can't afford to have a counselor or a coach, that is fine. There are a lot of YouTube videos out there. There are a lot of people like there are things you can find. And when I say YouTube, make sure it's credible though, because some of these YouTube videos are not credible, and I don't think that people know what they're talking about. But you can look up the people, you can research them, see if they're a credible person or if this is someone you need to talk to or listen to, and then do that. Listen to podcasts about relationships. Find out what it is you might need to do. And I say always approach it from your personality, because what works for me might not work for you. And so think about who you are, what works for you, how do you learn better, what things do you do to change your behavior. Think about it on those lines and then go at it from that, because I know with me, I'm the kind of person where I need to face my issues. I need to just deal with them. So I'm the kind of person who just expose myself to things to make sure I deal with the problem, figure out what's going on, and deal with it. But that might not be you. So you may need to be the person to sit down and journal, write down what's going on, write down your feelings, and then maybe come up with a way to discuss how you feel or write a poem about how you feel, but just acknowledging your feelings, sitting with those feelings, and then realizing why you're acting and reacting the way you are and why you're choosing the certain people that you're choosing can go a long way in helping you understand more about yourself. And I do want to say it's not going to be easy. It's going to be painful, especially if it came from a trauma or something that was not a good memory about your parents, something your parents did. But you still have to accept it. You don't have to agree with what happened, but just accept, okay, so this happened. Sit with that emotion, feel the pain. If you felt scared, feel it. If you felt sad, feel it. Feel that emotion. And then once you feel that emotion, you'll be able to know, okay, so I felt this emotion. I'm okay. I'm able to get through this. This is what I need to do moving forward. And so that is what I would suggest. Just a lot of self assessment, a lot of writing, figuring out what's going on with me.
Okay, okay, I dig that. I dig that. I hope everyone else do as well because trauma. The best way to deal with it is talk. Chat about it, talk about it. Mental
Hmm.
health is definitely a big thing, especially in the Black community. And I was
Yes.
chatting recently, like a lot of things came to a boiling effect, especially in 2020 with a lot of things that was just going
Hmm.
on in the world, and just a lot of people was just like, you know what, I'm just fed up. I got so many issues, I got so many problems that I need to talk to someone about it, because for a while in the black community, you don't talk about it, because if you talked about it, you was soft, you was this, you was, you were crazy, or you were afraid to go to a therapist. I had a guy on who he said he was afraid to go to a therapist. He was, I'm a guy, like, what I look like going to a therapist. So
Hmm.
in this time where mental health is becoming normalizing, and I think that's the way to go, and that's I say that's the thing to actually go for it, just expressing yourself,
Absolutely.
because there's a lot of trauma that we all face, but never just realize, or not even realize, or just talk about, or just actually just hey, this what happened, or this what I'm going through, and what can make it better, and just
Mhm.
so I always think that normalizing mental health is definitely a big factor in society.
Absolutely. And I think all of us have mental health issues. I think people don't realize that. Like, all of us go through depression, all of us go through different things. The only difference is when it's considered to be a mental illness is because of the duration of these symptoms. That's what it is. But all of us have these symptoms, and it's normal. This is what happens in life. You're not always going to be happy. You're going to be sad. You're going to be depressed, have anxiety. And the thing is, like, if you see this, like, okay, so I'm having anxiety about this, it might not even be something that's long term, but just talking to a counselor for the times that you do have it can go a long way to help you as you go through life to realize, oh, okay, I felt this before, but this is what I did. This is what I can do to move forward and use healthy coping skills. So I think learning healthy coping skills is great. And listen, I have seen therapists before, and I'm a relationship coach, and I am not ashamed about it. I learned a lot about myself. It was nice to vent to somebody else and have someone else help me figure out what was going on instead of me sitting down trying to figure it out myself. So I think that everybody should see a counselor at least
Yeah.
once in their life, because to me, I think it's a great opportunity for healing and getting to know who you are as an individual. Like, don't wait
Yeah.
until something terribly wrong. If you feel something's going on and something doesn't feel right, see a counselor. You can resolve
Mhm.
that in maybe 1 or 2 sessions and not have to spend months trying to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're right. This is it's cool to see a therapist. A lot of people think they got it all figured out and stuff like that, and that they may be too good for a therapist. So
Yeah.
I I know what you're saying. I definitely know what you're saying. What keeps you motivated? What keeps Kiana? What inspires you? I get it right.
Wow. Well, I'm one of those people where from the time I was a kid, actually, I've been very goal oriented. So if it's something I wanted to do, something I was interested in, I just went for it. I didn't wait for the right time. I just did it. That was just how it is. And apparently that's how it has gone throughout my whole life. If it's something I want to do, something I see, I'm like, oh, I can do that. Or I can, and I do believe I can do almost everything I attempt to do. And if I see I'm not doing good at it, I'm like, okay, what can I do differently to make sure I do it the next time? So I'm one of those goal oriented people who put in a lot of work. It's not easy, okay? It really isn't. I get up early, I go to the gym, I try to do a whole bunch of things, and I'm very organized. So that helps me get a lot of
Mhm.
things done because in addition to all the things I'm trying to do, I still am a mom. I'm a wife. I work. I do a whole bunch of things. But I just motivated because I realized that there is something people need to understand about relationships. I don't think we have been taught relationships correctly. I don't think we've seen good examples of relationships. And I just want to help people. I think a lot of relationships can be saved. Not all, because I don't think that's possible, but I think a lot of them could be saved if we just knew what to do. It's not like we're bad people, we just don't know what to do. And I just think once you give people a plan, this is how it can work, this is what you can do differently, then I think people will do better if they know what they need to do. So that's what motivates me. I like to help people, and I'm all about improvement and making things better.
Okay, okay. I dig it. I dig it. I love it. I love it, man. Been a dope show here on the 11:30 podcast, but we're gonna keep it moving on, you guys. It's time for the 11:30 podcast hot seat. All right, Keanu. It's time for the hot seat. I got six
Okay.
questions for you, and we're gonna roll with it. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Number one, where do you see yourself at 1 year from now?
1 year from now, I see myself with my coaching business going. I see myself dedicating more time to actually helping people with relationships, maybe doing a little speaking engagements. And I also plan on having some music out that I actually recorded in a studio, a real studio, and not my home studio. So that's where I see myself in a year. Oh, and I also have a postgraduate certification for marriage and family counseling.
Okay. Okay. I can dig that. I definitely could dig that. Let's see. The next one. If you can travel anywhere in the world right now, where will you go?
Oh wow. If I could go anywhere in the world right now, I would say I would love to go to Paris. It's just something about Paris that I love and I just want to go there. So yeah.
Okay. Paris seemed cool. Paris seemed cool. Okay. All right. What was the biggest? What is the biggest? Well, what are the top three red flags to you in a relationship?
For me, it's social media. That's red flag number one. If you're jumping in everybody's DMs and we just dating, then yeah, I kind of have a problem with that. 'Cause I think everybody should be talking surface, especially if you're in a relationship. I think DMs are too personal. So that's number one red flag. Another red flag is not wanting to commit. And it may not be bad about that person, but if you're a person who wants commitment, dating someone who's not ready for a commitment is a red flag because that's not going to go the way you want it to go or even in the direction you're thinking. So I think it's better to kind of cut your losses at that point if your ideas about the relationship is different. And then the last red flag for me is someone who is totally disrespectful to their mom or sisters. Because if they're just downright disrespectful, cursing at them, then you can only imagine how they may treat you. And might be a little old school, but I kind of see that kind of how things work. Now, I'm not saying you want a mama's boy, but what I'm saying is they should at least be respectful to their mom.
I agree. I definitely agree. Okay. Are you a half full or half full or half empty type of?
Half full kind of person.
Okay. I dig it. I dig it. I'm right along with you. I'm right along with you. Okay. Favorite food.
My favorite food I would have to say is avocados. And I like avocados because it's kind of flexible. You can eat it with a lot of different things. You can season it right and it's healthy. So I am an avocado lover.
Oh, okay. When you said that commercial came in my head. Avocados from Mexico. That just came through my head though. Okay. Let's see. Last one. If you had a warning label on you, what would it say?
Beware because you don't know which Kiana you might get.
Okay. Beware. Okay. You don't wanna cross me on this day. I got you.
Yeah, it's
I
what it
got you.
says where I was gonna say, yeah. It's like I'm a nice person, I don't start things, but if someone starts stuff, then I just feel an obligation to kind of finish it. And so in those moments, it's like beware, like leave Kiana alone. Don't ask her questions if she's upset because you don't know what her response is going to be. Just leave her alone.
I dig it. I dig it. Look at it, Keon. I appreciate you coming through here on the 11:30 podcast show. It was really fun having you on, chatting with you, really getting to know you and stuff. It was really awesome. But before you go, tell everyone about your podcast when the new episodes come on, and you have any questions, shout outs, anything you would like to say.
Okay, well, I do have two podcasts. One is Music and Therapy with me, relationship coach Keana W. Mitchell. It comes out on Wednesdays. Next Wednesday, we're going to start season 8. But this Wednesday, I am going to put out another episode. And it's pretty much just going to be an older episode, but it just goes along and it helps us transition into season 8, which starts next week. We're going to talk about how to stop arguing with your spouse. So that will be the opener for season 8 on Music and Therapy with me, relationship coach Keana W. Mitchell. I have another podcast called Finding God, and I'm going to start season 4 also next week. And on the Finding God podcast, I just talk about how it's more about having a relationship with God and not so much about religion, not about what you can and cannot do, not about all the other stuff we've been taught about God. It's about having a relationship. That's what matters. That's what's sustainable and not all of the other religious jargon and activities you have to do. So those are the two podcasts, and that comes out on Fridays. And so we'll be starting season 4 next week as well.
Okay, that's awesome. Really, really awesome. Look at keep up the awesome work. All the links would be down below in the description for everyone who's watching here on the podcast, man, on here on YouTube as well. Once again, this was fun. I can't wait to have you back on. I think you'll be a great fit for my Beyond 1130 series.
Oh,
When
sounds
I
fun.
do the next episode or two, I would definitely have you in mind where we talk about relationships and parenting and stuff like that and sex. Grown folks talk. So I think that'll be really, really cool. So I definitely can't wait to have you back on. It was really fun. Like I said, all the links will be down below for everyone who's watching. Great, great show. Once again, Keana, thank you for coming through here on the 1130 podcast show. For everyone who's watching, man, we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to come back. I got the WTF moment and more. You know, the WTF moment, man. Woo! You can't wait. You can't wait for that one though, for real. But once again, this was a great show. Don't move, you guys. You're listening and you're watching to the 1130 podcast.
For us, for our generation, we were raised that way. We were taught that, hey, certain things are okay for you because you're a boy. Boys can do this, girls can't. Like, and so I grew up with that mentality. And even now, I look at things and I'm like, well, boys are a little tougher and they can defend themselves a little better, and they may have a little more, I don't know, vigor or whatever. And, females tend to be, a little softer, a little more sometimes pliable, easily influenced, whatever it may be. It just, that stigma is there. And it may not always be the case, but I know for me, that's it's been embedded in me like that. So I think that's one of the big reasons that a lot of us have that mindset.
But that's what you want. It's that machismo we pass down. It's that I want to be better. It's the ego. Like we learn to feed our ego early on.
Yes.
And some people never learn to overcome their ego. So what they do, they pass it down. So it's a lot of different ways you can look at it, but that's how I see it.
When it comes to that, it's I agree with both the brothers. First of all, my biggest thing is the foundation of like your upbringing, where you come from, what's at home. Because I know for me, like, I mean, it's crazy we're even having this conversation. My oldest three are girls. My youngest two are boys. And when my oldest daughter first decided she wanted to date, just starting right there, I said, first of all, I hear them talking about it, but I'm old school, even though I'm not old enough to be as old school as I think I am. So, but my thing is, I told them, I said, I hear y'all talking, but just know nobody's coming by my house that I don't know and I haven't met. It starts there. And the reason I started there is because a lot of times everybody doesn't have that same foundation. So when you get to a space like around around 13, 14, I had an older woman trying to talk to me. I was interested in artwork and football. It was instilled in me, when you go to school, this is what you're looking for. Yeah, I like girls, but older women weren't that thing. So when it came down to me liking somebody, I weighed my options. Do I want to go to practice for football, or do I want to go talk to this girl at this particular age? Now, as I got older, they kind of almost weighed the same.
Yo, we back here on the 1130 podcast. Appreciate everyone sticking with me throughout the break, man. I want to shout out my guest who was on this week's episode, Keana Mitchell, relationship coach, entrepreneur, podcaster. Great guest for coming on here on the 1130 podcast show this week, man. Really, really great. All the links will be down below, you guys. If you want to get at Keana Mitchell, follow her, check out our podcast, and just get up, with some relationship tips and, experts or some advice. But yeah, dope guest, Keana Mitchell. Thank you for coming through here on the 1130 podcast. But you guys, man, like I said before the break, man, We're gonna wrap it on up. But before we do and head on out of here, it's time for the WTF moment of the week, you guys. Yes, WTF moment of the week. I can't let you guys go without the WTF moment of the week, man. And the WTF moment of the week comes straight out of Washington, D.C. Here in D.C., man. Now, I'm gonna let you guys check this video out because me explaining it, I don't want to get nothing wrong. But boy, oh boy, WTF. Check this out.
It is terrifying to imagine your young children kidnapped from school.
Yeah, but that's exactly what one Southeast D.C. mother told us had happened at Turner Elementary School last month.
As she says the school released her kids to the wrong person.
Air reporter Mariel Carbone is live for us in the newsroom tonight. And Mariel, the kids were safely recovered a few hours after being taken, but the mom still says the whole experience has been traumatizing.
Yeah, it has been not only for her, but also for her two children who were just 4 and 5 years old. She says she no longer feels safe sending them to school, and she's talking to us tonight because she doesn't want any other parent to have to go through this.
I have post-trauma that I'm going through, anxiety. You do not know the effects that it will bring on you as a mother to not know that you might not see your children when you get off of work at 5.
It's been 4 weeks since her kids were kidnapped from school. And Capria Phillips says the thoughts of what could have happened still haunt her every day. What was going through your head those few hours?
I thought the worst things in the world. I didn't think I would ever see my boys again. I thought that they would find them missing in a river.
Phillips says she got a phone call while at work on March 7th from Turner Elementary School, where her two boys, 5-year-old Harlem and 4-year-old Santana, went to school.
They called me and to ask me if I knew a person by a name of Jessica.
She didn't, so she rushed to the school, only to find out the kids were handed off to this person, Jessica.
My children were basically given away that day, and then the situation was swept under the rug.
According to a court affidavit, the woman, who has no relation to the children but was previously involved with the children's father, showed up to the school. She used a fictitious name of Jessica Smart and stated she was the mother of the kids. The school failed to check the ID and confirm she was the legal guardian.
They did not do the 100% identification check, which they have platform on the side of the school building.
The woman left with the kids under a false pretense, later using the kids as leverage to contact their father. Police found her, arrested her, and the kids were brought back safely. The woman has been charged with 2 counts of kidnapping. Phillips pulled her kids from the school.
Trust is broken. My heart is broken. Someone was that careless that day. I don't give you a second chance.
D.C. Public Schools declined an interview, but in a statement, the district said D.C. Public Schools takes any incident or allegations regarding student safety and well-being very seriously. The Turner Elementary School administration worked closely with DCPS Police and the Metropolitan Police Department to promptly address this matter on March 7th. Phillips is calling for accountability so no other parent ever has to go through this.
Just more due diligence, more caring, more love. If you love your students enough, you will love to know who you're giving them back away to.
She also wants an apology.
Genuinely apologize.
Yeah, would go a long way to have an apology.
A long, long way.
And Phillips says it's been really difficult to explain all this to the boys who still have questions and even wake up with nightmares. Chris and Thesmian, she also said her one son actually asked her if she was actually his mother after she changed her hair because they were just so confused by all of this. Reporting live in the newsroom, I'm Mariel Carbone, DC News Now.
WTF all the way, man. All the way, man. I couldn't believe it. Like me and my fiance, we talked about it multiple times, man. And even though my man is just, 9 months right now, and it's just, the whole daycare situation that happened in PG, and just sending your kid off to school and you just don't know, man. And they released her 2 boys to a woman that she didn't even know, and the woman used the kids as leverage, though. Like, what the, like, WTF, man? Like, what is going on in the world, man? Like, yo. Crazy, man. Crazy. Yo, but WTF all the way. Big W, big T, big F, man, for real. And just as I mentioned about that whole daycare situation too, WTF moment to that, man, for the lady who was just, abusing the kids in the daycare, dog. Like, it is, I don't understand it, bro. I don't think we not sending our kids over to no daycare, dog, at all, bro. And especially after stuff like that and just hearing things like that, because she was already more so adamant than I was about it. Because I was like, well, what if we both land some opportunities or jobs to where, it's better to, support the family and stuff. So she like, nah, I'm staying home. Until he older and talking. And I'm like, yo, you know what? Definitely, I agree. I definitely agree. I was having a conversation with my guy Brian B and how, homeschooling, is a great option. So yo, man, it's crazy, man. Definitely crazy, yo, man. Been a great show, awesome show. Shout out to my guest once again, Keana Mitchell, for coming through here on the 11:30 podcast show this week, man. For real, really, really great show. One thing I want to say before I wrap it on up, this past Monday was the 1 year. It's been 1 year since my brother was killed, and man, big inspiration to me into my journey in podcasting, into helping me back find my purpose. I want to say, Isaac, man, I miss you. I love you. And was having a conversation with him the other day. He was looking at a picture, and I just, I'd be cracking up, man. I'd just be like, some of the stuff that he told me or taught me that maybe I was just too naive to listen or learn. And I know he just like, I know I'm right. And it just be some funny moments though. But I know he watching over. I know he looking over his family. That's why I want to say, Zodi Breeze, man, I love you. I appreciate you for everything, man. So you never will be forgotten with me. Never ever will be forgotten. So once again, shout out to Brody, Zodi Breeze, man. But yo, you guys, man, I'm out of here. Great show. Before I do, don't forget to follow the 11:30 podcast on all social media platforms. Follow me on Twitter at the 11:30 podcast, like the 11:30 podcast on Facebook. If you haven't done so this entire episode, I don't know what you're waiting for, man. Hit that subscribe button down below, you guys. Yes, smash that subscribe button down below. Follow me on TikTok at the 11:30 podcast, Instagram at the 11:30 podcast _ and yo, just follow the 11:30 podcast everywhere, man. I appreciate it. Appreciate all the love. About to hit 1,250 subscribers on YouTube. I appreciate all the love and support, you guys. A new episode of the 11:30 podcast, Talk Pro Wrestling. It's live, man. Live this week with Commission Talks on YouTube and Facebook Live. So definitely make sure you tune in. Where I got the guys Warren Marlowe, Blackheart is back in the building. So Commission Talks, man. The boys are back in town. So definitely tune in, man. Yo, I'm out of here, man. Until next time, I'm your host, Dre, aka Dre on Wheels. Stay safe, stay blessed. Give all the glory to God, man. Won't he do it? Yo, I'm out.